What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, today's video, we're going to be talking about S.W.O.R.D number 6 by Al Ewing and Valerio Schiti. And in this video, we're going to learn how powerful the new element Mysterium is, the new element discovered by mutants during the S.W.O.R.D number 1 debut back in 2020. We're also going to learn the identity of the new Regent of Mars, now that Mars has been terraformed into planet Araco. We're also going to learn who is the mysterious enemy of mutant kind Magneto is secretly meeting with that could cause shockwaves throughout Krakoa. We're going to talk about all this and more right now, but first, if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoy the video, I humbly ask that you Hulk smash that like button because it does really help the channel out. That said, let's hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Okay, so when we kick this book off, we are met by Captain America, who eventually is met by Dr. Doom. Now, this whole thing is basically kind of a showing of common ground between them, even though they are diametrically opposed characters. They do not stand for the same things, but in some weird ways, Doom and Captain America are not that much unalike when it comes to how they feel about protecting the world that they live in. Doom is angling to get Cap on his side, or at the very least, he's trying to get him to trust him, trying to get him to open up a little bit more to it, because Doom believes that the mutants terraforming Mars is going to lead to something more dangerous. Responding to that, not only is he talking about that, but he's also worried that something else is on the horizon. We do know that as of Guardians of the Galaxy number 15, which also released this week, Doom might be referring to a couple of different events that have nothing to do with mutants. Those being the emergence of planet Dormammu, the new rebirth of Dormammu after Ego the Living Planet turned into a planet-sized egg during, I want to say, the earlier parts of Al Ewing's Guardians of the Galaxy run. I will not lie to you about exactly when that happened because I have not been keeping up with it as best as I probably should. But the other thing that is coming up is the Darkhold event, an event that Dormammu could easily be connected to as well. But this is also an event that we know that Dr. Doom is going to be heavily connected to as well. So he could be referring to a lot of different things, and we do know that Dr. Doom is going to be heavily involved in a lot of the things going on with Guardians of the Galaxy. He has been up to this point, and he is going to be involved with battling Dormammu. So there's a lot of different things he could be talking about here, but what Doom is trying to get everyone to understand, and Captain America included, is that there is going to be some kind of fallout. Something bad is coming their way, and Doom is going to be prepared to do something about it when it does, and he's not going to throw a party to celebrate it. Another disturbing moment in this, though, is that Captain America overhears Henry Peter Gyrick talking with Alpha Flight member Guardian, or as some of you may know him better as Vindicator. Either way, he's talking to Guardian about Orchis. This is actually one of the first times we've seen Henry Peter Gyrick talk about Orchis out in the open. We know that he works for Orchis. He's technically their infrastructure and influence guy, and he's one of the few people that we know directly about who is working with Orchis, and right now he's trying to recruit Guardian on board. And this is something I think gets kind of lost in translation about Alpha Flight, is that because of characters like Wolverine and North Star and Aurora being involved with the team of Alpha Flight, we often tend to think of Alpha Flight as being a mutant team, and that's actually not really the case. Not everyone on the team is a mutant. There are quite a few characters on Alpha Flight that are not anything even remotely close to one. So I would forgive a lot of people if they're sitting here thinking like, well, why the hell is Gyrick buddying up with Guardian? It's because Guardian isn't a mutant. He's a human who just so happens to be a cyborg, and likely a good candidate for all of the Orchis shenanigans that they like to pull off. We all know how much they love turning people into Nimrods lately, and well, that could very possibly be a thing. Guardian could wind up becoming another Nimrod, or maybe something worse, or just having his influence with Alpha Flight being there to help make Orchis more legitimized in the eyes of whoever. The other big thing on the plate here is the Mysterium. The Mysterium made its first appearance in S.W.O.R.D number 1 when we witnessed S.W.O.R.D's teleportation team dive into the farthest reaches of space and recover something that we had no clue what the f it was. And during a meeting with various and sundry very important people from across the Marvel Comics universe, like Orbis Stellaris from the Galactic Rim Collective, Nimbus Sternhoof of Great Kymelia, Mentacle of House Rigel. We also see a familiar face in the way of Empress Kuga of the Xenarch's Empire, who was recently upjumped to Empress thanks to S.W.O.R.D. We also see Revo, an ambassador from the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda, and someone who is referred to as being T'Challa's eye. We also see a familiar face in terms of Pybok, who is representing the Kree-Skrull Alliance. We see Smasher, who is a Super Guardian and is representing the Shi'ar Empire. We also see Peter Quill, the Star-Lord, who is representing Spartax. And of course, Novar, who was once a Captain Marvel in his own right, but is now representing the Utopian Kree. And of course, last but not least, Richard Rider, Nova, who is representing Earth as a partial representative. And right now, what is happening is that Abigail Brand is revealing Mysterium, the existence of it, to all parties involved. Now, most of the aliens here are relatively unimpressed that the mutants terraformed Mars. Some are impressed with how fast they did it, but some could care even less. But the one thing that does have their attention is the Mysterium. The elements that make up Mysterium, we are not told what they are. They're not revealed. They are proprietary in nature, and only mutants have the recipe. The element can be used like any other metal, and compared to the same metal that makes up the Kree-Skrull Starliner, Frenzy bends that same metal as if it were tissue paper. But the Mysterium, once it's been set and cooled below 200 degrees Kelvin, it is said to have the same strength as secondary adamantium, which Frenzy struggles to make it even bend by a millimeter. That's just showing you how powerful this stuff really is. The Mysterium in metallic form can even conduct electricity at 100% efficiency, yet barely conducts heat on any level. It's also radiation proof, and if used to outfit a ship's hull, you could fly it through the sun safely. WizKid even compares Mysterium to a computer that runs at 100% efficiency forever and never fails. Even alludes that it has some magnetic properties that are off the charts, but they're not going to reveal what they are, but something tells me we'll learn a lot more about them later. Now, the thing about this Mysterium that I think a lot of people are going to be caught off guard by is the fact that they're giving this away. They found this powerful element and they're willing to just gift it to the people who are present. Abigail Brand even says herself that she's going to give them 100 tons of the stuff each for free. And they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to worry about overflooding the market with the stuff, because that's actually something that Orbis Stellaris brings up. Like, what if we overflood the market with the stuff? It's not possible because the mutants are the only ones who can make it, and they don't really have a personal need for it because it isn't something that they'll absolutely have to use. But one of the things that Abigail Brand does suggest is using this stuff as a form of currency, and even kind of throwing out flippantly that you could call it the soul. Now, everyone here is in a unique situation because not only are there some people, once again, Nova being one of them, being pissed about the terraforming of Mars, but once again, he's not crazy about the idea of starting yet another fight, because if you go and read Guardians of the Galaxy number 15, he actually starts a pissing contest with Magneto, and even though they both kind of catch hands from each other, we both realize, and they themselves realize that, well, for one, Nova should not have started a fight, and Magneto should not have fallen for it, and they both have common interests. And even though they do seem to kind of work things out, and they both agree that they can't trust Dr. Doom, Nova still kind of seems to be holding on to a little bit of that anger here. Now, he could also still be a little sore after Frenzy did point out that the mutants shouldn't have to answer to anybody else, Nova included, because technically, when Null came to Earth and was devastating the entire Sol system, Nova wasn't on Earth to help stop Null. It was the mutants who came to Earth's aid. So he may still be in a little bit of his feelings about that, but that is a very strong point. And then Frenzy even further cements the fact that the rest of the galaxy, the rest of the Sol system, could use mutant kind's help, because where were their protectors when Null came calling? And now they would have an entire planet full of warlike mutants in the mutants of Arakko, who would be more than happy to go to war for just about any cause because they all love a fight. fight. And in this issue, it's one of the things where he does actually bring up something that I don't think anyone else was willing to ask, and that is, what exactly do the mutants want in return for this generous offer of this mysterious, powerful element that only they have control of? And it is about what you would expect. Krakoa is offering everyone there their 100 tons of Mysterium respectively to do whatever they want with. The catch is that they must recognize Krakoa and mutant kind's place in the galaxy, no different than the deal that Krakoa offered the nations of Earth during House of X. Recognition in return for the most powerful element in all the galaxy, and that whenever the Sol system has a problem, they don't go to the defunct and also destroyed Nova Corps, they don't go to the Guardians of the Galaxy, they don't go to the Wakandans, they don't go to the Regillians, they don't go to the Eternals, they don't ask anybody else anything, that they come to planet Arakko first. This leads to Doom, speaking of Doom earlier, crashing the proceedings and asking the question I think we have all had since it was teased in last week's Planet Size X-Men. Who is in charge? If mutants claim that humanity on Earth was so divided and now suddenly we have this governing space on the political arena of the cosmic system, well then who is the unified singular voice of it? Who is the voice of the Sol system? And I think it's the one character that initially when I made my video for Planet Size X-Men, I actually suggested some other characters. I actually suggested that it could possibly be Apocalypse. I even kind of mused at the idea of Namor backpedaling his statements made earlier in X-Men number 20 to try and get that position himself, to have control over more than just the oceans of Earth, but to have control over a solar system. But neither of those are actually the case. The case is actually made for a character who is probably the more obvious pick, someone who was featured very heavily on the poster for when Reign of X was first teased, a character wielding the Mysterium themselves, and that would be Storm. When Storm appears before Doom, and I feel like this is also such a mega flex considering the history that Doom and Storm have with one another, especially considering her time as Queen of Wakanda and working very closely with Black Panther, because she was married to him and he was her king. That said, I love the fact that when she appears, she lets it be known that she is the Regent of Mars and the voice of Sol, still rocking the Hellfire Gala outfit considering this is actually still technically happening roughly around that same time. But I love the fact that Storm has been put in this position. She has basically slowly been building up her status, working with the Marauders, doing her thing during House of X, even though she did very little. She also has been doing lots of other stuff on the sidelines, whether you realize it or not. She's also been working very closely with Black Panther in his fight against Killmonger and the Onjadaka symbiote during the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda story arc. So yeah, she has basically made a place for herself. She also was probably one of the few mutants from Krakoa who actually legitimately won her fight in Ten of Swords against death. So yeah, this is one of those situations where we're putting some respect on Storm's name and I'm here for it. I'm 100% in for a penny, in for a pound. Let's go. Now, that said, this is, all bullshit aside, another thing I have to talk about here is how is everybody going to respond to this offer now of the Mysterium? Now, we do know that Spartax and the Galactic Rim Collective, they are going to jump on this offer immediately because both of their respective regions were run roughshod over when Null made his cut across the universe to take down Earth. We also know that Great Kymelia, they are also going to take this Mysterium as well, but their reasoning for doing this is for defense purposes. We also know the Shi'ar Empire and the Xenarts Empire, they're accepting the deal because they have already manifested their deal of being political allies of Krakoa, and of course the people of Rigel, they're going to take it because they're going to use it for technological expansion. Now, the one group that is not going to accept this offer is going to be the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda. Well, for one, they have no need of this Mysterium element. They have vibranium and a laundry list of other things at their disposal. Even though initially it was stated that they would probably accept the Mysterium just, as a gift out of courtesy, but not actually want to have any dealings with mutants on any meaningful level, which I find even more interesting considering that T'Challa, the Black Panther, is the ruler. He is the emperor over all, not just Wakanda Prime on Earth, but of the Intergalactic Empire Wakanda itself now. In the wake of Black Panther number 25, the final issue under Ta-Nehisi Coates, he is literally the big swinging dick of all Wakanda now, whether it's on Earth or in space. And with Storm being the Regent, being the number one voice in all the Sol system, I find it very interesting that they took that stance. But considering that they turned down the deal that Krakoa originally offered during House of X, Not that surprising, but still weird. Now that said, we know that the Kree-Skrull Empire, they've yet to give their answer. However, it is stated in a note by Pybok to the Emperor himself, Hulkling, it is said that they aren't going to necessarily turn the offer down, but they aren't going to accept it right away. They're kind of playing for time here, and we can't forget when we talk about the Kree-Skrull Empire, the fact that war is coming and S.W.O.R.D is going to be directly involved. If you remember Al Ewing's Empire event in the Empire Aftermath Avengers one-shot, we have to remember that Abigail Brand quit Alpha Flight in that issue publicly in front of Emperor Hulkling, and more importantly, we were shown a glimpse of the future where everything was in ruin. Many Kree and Skrull laid dead all around the place, and Abigail Brand appears to be there at the end of it all to help Emperor Hulkling, saying that she built something better. And we see the people that would have inevitably made up S.W.O.R.D behind her, namely Manifold. So at some point, the Kree-Skrull Empire and S.W.O.R.D and the mutants of Krakoa are going to become aligned in some way. The question is, what is going to be the reasoning behind it? And the keys, I'm going to tell you right now, the keys to what that is lie within the events of Al Ewing's Empire. And the more I think about it, I'm like, oh man, I kind of want to go back and reread that and see if it gives me a better perspective. A lot of this actually has to do with something we're about to talk about, and that is the idea that we have to remember Hulkling is married to Wiccan. And who is Wiccan? Wiccan is the son of Wanda Maximoff, the Pretender, the one who is the enemy of the state of Krakoa and is not regarded very well in the eyes of Krakoa's mutants. And it has made things with the Kree-Skrull Empire very tense because, you can't just hate the Queen Mother of this entire Kree-Skrull Empire and think it's gonna be cool. Just ain't what it is. However, I will say this does lead to something very interesting. As we're talking about Wanda Maximoff, one of the last things we see in this book is that at the close, we're taken to the end of the gala. All the guests are gone home. The only people left are Magneto and one other. The Pretender herself, Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, the woman who was once the daughter of Magneto, only to be revealed later that she was never his child and was simply a creation of the High Evolutionary, the very same woman who uttered the words "no more mutants" and reduced the number of living mutants from roughly thousands to barely 200. Their conversation is incredibly cordial, considering that this is so unlikely. We witnessed Magneto talk cash money shit about Wanda Maximoff, calling her a pretender the same way we've seen Exodus and other characters on Krakoa do. He has talked so bad about Wanda and has come off incredibly mean about it. And when we see how this conversation goes, it is incredibly weird to watch because, for one, Wanda is not comfortable being there. She is making her reluctance to be there incredibly obvious, and it is understandable. Wanda has been very repentant about the decimation in recent years. She's even tried to undo it herself as recently as Al Ewing's Empire event, and even warned other characters in the Marvel Comics universe, namely characters like Star and even Captain Marvel Carol Danvers, about using magic and reality warping to fix your problems, and how dangerous that it can be, and you can make mistakes that you can't take back. And I'm going to say this right now, Magneto is not the man that is standing before Wanda Maximoff. This is not Magneto. This is Max Eisenhart. He seems tired, he's vulnerable, and he reveals his true feelings about Wanda in this, and that he loves her and that she is his daughter, no matter what anyone else says, no matter what, the retcons may say. His wording exactly is that sometimes what is real is not the same as what is true, and sometimes it takes two to pretend, basically telling her that he wants her to be his daughter again, even if she actually isn't. He even is recalling to her the time of Anya, his daughter, who was killed in a fire, and when his powers had roughly manifested. This is something we actually saw adapted, I believe, in X-Men Apocalypse on a really weird scale, but it's not exactly the same thing. But if you saw that movie, you kind of got a rough idea of what he's talking about here. And Magneto is sharing, he's opening up his heart and everything to Wanda Maximoff, and he even tells her that she is his daughter and that she will always be his daughter and that he will do what he must to make things right. And what that is, we don't know yet, because we do know the trial of Magneto is coming. Is he going to kill somebody in order to make this go away? We do know that Exodus is probably gonna be the main person to have problems with Wanda being around in the first place. We do know there are some other mutants out there who don't particularly care for Wanda Maximoff, but something tells me something's gonna happen that's gonna lead Magneto to have to step up and take the L for his daughter. And I don't know how that's going to play out, what's going to happen here. This is something that I wasn't expecting. I actually talked about this on Twitter, that I've always kind of just accepted the fact that Wanda Maximoff and Pietro are not mutants anymore. That was just something that I just decided that, yeah, I'm just going to roll with it. If Marvel is going to double down on it, then I'm just going to freaking roll with it and leave it at that. That has always been about roughly my attitude towards things, because it just didn't seem like there was any hope in sight that they would ever actually undo any of it. And now it seems like Al Ewing is angling to undo the retcon that was done roughly around the time that the movie Age of Ultron came out in Rick Remender's Uncanny Avengers Volume 2, Number 4, back in 2015. And if that's the case, I'm here for it. It seems like Magneto is not even just talking about Wanda, but even Quicksilver as well. I don't know where any of this is going. I am totally in for a penny, in for a pound on this. I love it. I'm here for it. Let's go. I want to see more. I can't wait to see how Magneto is going to play this out. And if Wanda does end up being reinstated as an honorary mutant or whatever, or they just decide to, let her slide for past sins, whatever, or just forgive her, I want to see how that plays out. I would actually love nothing more than to see someone like, we've seen, Magneto clearly forgives her, but I would love to see characters like, maybe Charles or Cyclops or Storm or Emma Frost or somebody say, hey, you know what? Let bygones be bygones. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button and make sure to share this video all over the internet and with all your friends so they'll know how you leveled up your comic book big brain in regards to S.W.O.R.D and the Hellfire Gala. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know what you thought about S.W.O.R.D number 6. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.